Daniel received all his degrees more or less from Saarland University, and he stayed at the same place as a full professor right now. His research is in the areas of neuroscience and also neurotechnology. He has a large center. He mentored 7 PhD students, and also is our new collaborator. We are going to start a new project together with him. And his 3 students last year attended our leadership summer school. He has funded maybe EU projects, several EU projects, as well as the German government. Daniel, it's wonderful to have you back.
Thank you, Metin. It's great to be here. I'm not sure if the microphone already on. Yeah, it is. Metin, thanks. Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you for being here. Just a short correction. My Ph.D. in mathematics is from Mannheim University.
Okay, sorry. The theoretical medicine from Saarland, and he has 2 PhD degrees, and other one is from Mannheim.
Thank you. Here you see my group. So some of them you may recognize. They here, Lars and Corinna, they visited the summer school. Well, Metin asked me to show you where I'm coming from. So this is Saarland. You know, I hope you know where Germany is. This is Saarland, a little state in the southwest. And those are my labs. You see, the summer school is helpful to become a lab head here. Right? I have to give my postdocs basically always a lab, you know, marry them in order that they stay with me. So, and well, today I want to talk about some work that we did in the translational lab, but Metin asked me to talk also about recent developments in the MindScan lab, which might be important for biomedical engineering and neural engineering in particular. So, because out of the MindScan lab activities, we were happy to get funding for a driving test track in a city in Saarland, as well as a company. How this looks is, so we have cars which are equipped with monitoring devices. So for, you know, implementing effective computing in robots, in cars, so the cars which are able to read the emotions of the passengers, to read where their attention is and react accordingly. The same for new industry types where humans have to collaborate with robots. And what I see is that a lot of our students in neural engineering, they start working in the automotive industry. And this is really new. It wasn't in the past like that. I think that's important development because we saw before the challenges in medicine, medical engineering, are not less. So the only solution to solve that problem is more people have to study biomedical engineering, particularly neural engineering. So, and how we can use this infrastructure for medicine. This one project I'm working on with Metin. So in a sense, we want to send our artificial intelligence-based cars to medical school. But now this is just a yellow slide to really show you, give me attention, because now I'm really coming to my talk. Well, I'm not sure whether it's of interest to everybody about ears, but it might be important because this talk will change the way how you think about your own ears and the ears of your beloved ones. So, you know, we know that cats and dogs, they make ear movements, right? You have seen them. Clear. So, but in this talk, I also want to show you that we human beings, we make ear movements when we try to pay attention. So I want to convince you about that, you know, therefore I have the results of a scientific study, you know, here graphs, standard deviation, so and so. And let us take a deeper look at that. So I'm going to the big picture and the technological problem because it's an engineering university here. So if you talk about spatial attention, it's always good to talk about the cocktail party problem. You know, for people wearing hearing aids, this is kind of a horrible setting because there are a lot of sound sources and you have to segregate these sound sources. It's very difficult for some people wearing hearing aids. So they're really tired after some time because the brain has just worked much more than for normal hearing speed. And one solution here, what hearing aid companies are trying to do is that they use directional microphones. So they are directed to your gaze direction. You know, I'm looking at you, and now I'm just hearing you. All the others is, you know, it's kind of faded out. That's kind of the idea. But we all know in a real conversation, many people, we hear something there, so we look here, but we pay attention there. This cannot be mapped by this technology. Even though they try to use some external cues, some physical cues from outside to guide the directional microphone, there are still problems, because just imagine you sit there in a bar, have a conversation, talk to somebody, suddenly the door is opening, you know, it's making a loud sound, and your hearing aid is always switching there, right? That's not comfortable, right? So that's bad for the human-machine interaction. Let me call it a little hearing aid now machine. And one solution here goes to the direction of what Natalie was talking about, the brain-computer interfaces. So brain-computer interfaces in medicine, we know them for a long time. You know, decades ago, we used neurofeedback. Then 16 years ago, we organized a neural engineering conference at Capri Island, where we had organized sessions on brain-computer interfaces. But very recently, there was a development of using brain-computer interface as kind of an evolution of the standard way how we communicate with machines. So we have keyboards, we have touchpads, we have speech, gestures. That's where we are now. But the next step is that we connect our brains directly to the machine. So a lot of activities from the place where these girls come from, the Silicon Valley, are now directed to this direction, to use this direct communication link. And we hope to, if we use that we get kind of a bidirectional anticipation, so that the machine, the hearing aid, is really following the human intention. So this is what we want to couple it to the attentional system of a human in order to control it. And important is it has to work. You know, in brain and on human-machine interfaces in general, we have this problem of a love-hate relation of technology. You may have experienced that if you use Word, Microsoft Word, and you write something down and so on, and there's an autocorrection, it does something bad. You know, you switch it off immediately. There's no second chance. You hate it. You hate the technology and you reject it. So we, of course, don't want that. So certainly those hearing machines, they should not do random stuff. They should follow our intentions. And we spend a lot of time in recent years, probably the last 10 years, to get the intensity of attention. So for us, attention is like a vector oriented in space. So it has intensity, but it also has direction. So we spend a lot of time to get the intensity. And now what I want to talk about today is how we can get the direction. Where do you pay attention in space? That's the topic of this talk. And that you see, we really take care on the translation. This intensity issue has been translated to product for, this is the company that bought Siemens hearing aids, and one of our spin-offs integrated this in something that they can really easily use. So I have two projects going on, but I just have a few minutes. Probably Metin is just telling me you have just 5 minutes left or so. One is about EEG, so how we can get this information from EEG. There are a lot of projects going on in the United States and the European Union as well, how we can get spatial attention from the EEG. The most common approach is there are 4 speakers, and if you focus on one of these 4 speakers, your EEG is following the envelope of that speech. So that's the most common approach here. Also here we have a miniaturization of devices, because if we want to use brain-computer interfaces in everyday life, they should not be bulky, you know. And there's miniaturization, making them small. The other direction that we see is lifestyle, so it should just look fancy. This project they're doing all very well. Our external collaboration partner is Stephen Hilliard from the University of San Diego. They got good results, they published papers, but today I really want to focus here on an EMG study, which I did with this team. These are just my people in my lab. This is Ronny Hannemann from Cervantes, and this is Stephen Heckley from the University of Missouri. And we have two things here. One is really a lab setup where we do the science. We really try to understand what are the mechanisms behind, but we also have one technology demonstrator to show that it really works wherever you put it. I first start with this big setup in our MindScan lab. So you all know these voluntary ear movements, right? Probably some of you can do that. Where I see nothing, nobody's in the mood now to move ears. But you see there are voluntary ear movements. So people want to move their ears. That's not what we are talking about today. You know, we talk about involuntary movements that you make if you pay attention. The funny story, and this might be interesting for the students, is I told you we were working on EEG and decoding spatial attention. So when the Ph.D. students there complained a lot, we always have these artifacts. But look at them. They correlate much better with the spatial attention than actually our EEG approach. So I wanted to know, what are these artifacts? And then I found this paper of Stephen Heckley, our collaboration partner, which came out in 2015. So we collaborated with him after that paper, okay, to have causality here. And he was suggesting that all the literature on the post-auricular muscle response, that's the response that you get, if I clap my hands, you get a big response from your post-auricular muscle. That this comes as a kind of neural fossil in our brain. So it's one Asian Pinna-Orienting system, a vestigial system. And it's assumed that it was lost, it became vestigial like 25 million years ago. But I want to demonstrate you that the activity is still there. And we want to use the activity of this vestigial Pinna-Orienting system to control these BCI devices. So we had 5 experiments here, just we'll talk about those, the exogenous and the endogenous attention. These are 2 different types of attention. Exogenous means it's driven by the physics outside. So if I make a loud sound, this was not very loud because the mic is dominant. You will pay attention automatically there. You know, if there's a very loud and abrupt sound, you automatically pay attention. This type of attention is driven by the physics surrounding you. And there's the endogenous attention. That's the type of top-down attention, where you say, oh, I want to pay attention here, or I want to pay attention there. That's endogenous attention, top-down attention. So there were 28 participants in the study for experiment 1, so the exogenous one, and we had 21 in experiment 2. The reason is we changed the setting in experiment 2. We improved it after we measured a couple of patients. It was basically when our collaborators came all together, we decided to change the course of the experiment. But all the participants are included in the study, so that the data that I'm going to show you has all our participants. This is how we place the electrodes. So it's an EMG study. Again, we get muscle signals, right? And this is how we glue the electrodes to the ear. This is the setting how we arranged the loudspeaker. So the subject had to sit here at the chin rest, very quiet, reading something in front of the screen, and so on. But I will talk about the setting in a minute. This is the computer vision setup. So we used 2 stereo setups to record videos of ear movements, because ear movements have never been documented. You know, you saw the only thing you actually have is a few pictures of the Wilson phenomenon. This means if you move your eyes very strong from one direction, there's a slight ear movement. So before and after movement, this is the only documentation so far about ear movements. Why this case is mysterious, Beate is a German name. I will tell you later because we will spend some time with her ears. So it's also funny when we installed this, you know, it was a new lab and there wasn't the computational infrastructure yet, especially for data management. So what you see here on the table are all these, you know, 10 terabyte Iron Wolf disks. So they were lying there just like floppy disks in the past to handle all this data from the stereo cameras in particular. So the exogenous experiment is just, there are several sounds playing from one direction very suddenly, randomly. You know, playing from here, a baby crying, then a limo holding from here, then you have a cell phone from here, and we just check how these sounds automatically capture our attention. In experiment 2, because we want that people really pay attention in the endogenous experiment, so there were two competing stories from either here or here or here or here, and they had to pay attention to one of these stories. We were asking them after the experiment some multiple choice questions, what was actually going on in the story, so they really pay attention. And also they had the chance to pick a story in which they are interested in after a short introduction, because we really wanted to make sure that they pay attention to these stories. So there is some signal processing, but it's all very easy, standard EMG processing beside a multi-level decomposition that we use, but it's the engineering faculty, so you all know about time frequency decompositions and filter banks. I don't need to spend much time with this now. This for video processing, that's a video that I have stolen from Michael Rubinstein's Ph.D. defense. So this is recorded using a standard webcam, but now you go and magnify little differences between the frames. So if you do this type of video magnification, this is what you get from a standard recording, right? So there's a lot of information hidden in every video that we actually see, and we can magnify this information. For our ear movements, we needed to work on this method a little bit, so we used a dense optic flow-based system, and what we did is we wanted actually to have this method completely free of any a priori information that I have to put inside, because we don't know how the ear moves, right? I cannot say we expect signals at this frequency, and this is information that you need for the other method. Therefore, we had to work on this for a while that it really performs. You see the magnification of a voluntary ear movement. Here you see the ear movement, and here you see the magnified version using this method. There will be more clear videos and images soon. So that's the results that we have for this experiment, where you play sounds from certain directions. And that's the EMG, baseline vector. So what you see here is the EMG, the muscle response from different muscles. There's the post-auricular muscle, the anterior auricular muscle, the superior, and the transversal auricular muscle. So we monitor all these muscles, and that's the activity that you get. So you see there's really a dominant effect for a longer time. So this is much longer than the actual post-auricular muscle response, which is known in literature. And what we see here is that the speaker, the ipsilateral speaker, so the one that's really on the side where your ear is, has the strongest response, right? That's the ipsilateral speaker. And the ones from the back are stronger than the ones from the front. Means your ears have to work more to capture that sound. But again, there are just a few graphs and muscle activity, but it's interesting, and so far, suppose you sit here and suddenly there's a loud noise, your ears start to move. At least there's the muscle activity. Not for everybody, movement will result out of this vestigial neural drive, but there is an orienting of the ears to that sound. So I don't bother you with the statistics here, but it's all significant what I just told you. And this is one video magnified, so you see really the first ear moving here. That's the displacement of the pinna, and here you see the EMG activity. You see it's really pretty nicely correlated. So it's moving here. Right? We have the strongest displacement, we have the strongest signal. This is now just the signal from the post-auricular muscle response. In the vector plot up here, you see all the muscles. Because we believe the post-auricular and the anterior one, they're kind of antagonists. Therefore, we plotted them here in one dimension. So you see, as soon as the sound really comes in here at 0, you have this huge reaction of the ear orienting to that sound. So this is what you get from stereo vision. Therefore, I really liked it, because you can analyze the dynamics of the ear in 3 dimensions. So if you check the displacements, there's also much stronger to the ipsilateral ear. This is what this picture is telling you, but basically what we saw before in the statistical analysis for all the subjects. So for the endogenous experiment, we found a similar pattern, even though different, for the individual muscles. And that's really interesting, because nobody ever analyzed that. You know, it's not that something sudden is capturing your attention and your ears try to orient. This is really, I want to pay attention here. And your ears, there's a neural drive that try to orient your ears to that sound. So here you see the activity for the arm for listening left and right. And you see the activity again is stronger on the side to which you're actually listening. So you have a strong activity on the ipsilateral side. That's the same plot here. You see it, that's attent left, attent right, and here you have always the left and the right channel. But what I found extremely interesting is that if you make this time resolved, that's the average over the entire EMG signal. But if we make this time resolved, so we really see the time course, you really see that there's a sustained effect lasting for a long listening period. So your ears really have to work hard in order to follow a certain story. So the same happens for the front speakers, but statistically not that strong. So again, the effect that I told you, that you have this ipsilateral activation stronger, is also statistically significant. I skipped some data here about the age groups and so on, but there were no major differences between age groups in this data. So what I want to show you now is a non-magnified ear movement. We just play the video a little bit faster, but it's not processed. There's a real recording of an ear trying to orient attention. And here you see the left ear, here you see the right ear. You see the effect on the right ear because there's the ipsilateral one, a little bit stronger. That's again the vector plot, and here you see the activity of the post-auricular muscle. And it's difficult because, you know, humans have not, we need actually more eyes and more ways of attention to spot all of it. But you see the video here, that's the right ear, that's the left ear, and you have to see what happens if the activity starts. If you really look carefully, you see how the ear is pulling and really working hard. The video is a little bit, well, there's some stuff going on before actually the story starts, but I can use it to explain to you more what you should look at. So again, here we soon see the activity starting, and you have really to look here at the ear. I mean, the contrast is not that great now, but if you spot a part like this, you really see that there's something going on which is significant. And the relaxation at the end will be also amazing. So and here we go. You see? The ear is really pulling, the distances here are changing. And every curve here in the EMG is reflected in the movement of the ear. So whenever the EMG becomes stronger, you see a little movement of the ear. This is the mysterious case that I was talking about before, because for this woman, this effect was extremely strong. You know, we don't need any video magnification, you just see it like that, playing the video a little bit faster. But soon the story is over and she's going to relax. Just check how the ear is moving down. Now, see this. You see? It's completely moving down. So, you can see my emotions. I really like that video. So I told you, having this, we have significance in the data, it's all good, but again, we want to use it for hearing aids. And this is the integrated technology demonstrator. The way how it works is we get the signal from both ears. We do non-decimated wavelet decomposition of that signal. And we take those energy features of the EMG to feed a learning machine. So pattern recognition here happens in a way because we can adjust it to the individual person. So what happens is we take that data and we get those features and we optimize the features in a way, 5 minutes, that we get a maximum spread in the feature space of kernel machines of that data, so that the classification works better. And we trained one machine for the left ear, and we trained one machine for the right ear. So just if this both give us the same decision, this was listening right, or this was listening left, we say it's left or right. Otherwise the system is in a doubt decision. So this is one example that worked really nice. This is stabilization off. In this video I'm showing you the down decisions that we have. That's the middle. So here's the task of the subject, listen left, and here you see what the machine is giving you. This is left, you can hardly see it, right? But here's written left and here's written right. You see that? Some schema-based information. If I tell you it's here, that's left and that's right. And in the middle is doubt decision. And here's again the task. So this is what we get. This is listening left. Again, it's a very good subject. Yeah? We don't get this performance for everybody. Bless you. So there's listening right, and you see it really jumps to the other side. So now we have again listening left. The more doubt decisions clear, the longer you record, the worse the electrode contact becomes, the worse is the training of the machine before. So then we have listening right again. Yeah, sorry, this is somehow playing slower as it actually was supposed to. But now we have stabilization on. This means we have no doubt decisions. So whenever the system is in doubt, we just stay at the direction that we were. And then you get this. It's nice. But remember, the learning phase was before testing. So the longer we wait, the longer there is time for the electrodes to give us a bad contact. And you can of course improve it by using like an X-out of Y classifier, for instance, to make the decisions more stable. But it really jumps nicely to the other direction. And we use this technology demonstrator, for instance, at a hearing aid dispenser even. You know, just people coming in, measure, and it worked nicely. So the performance that you get in the longer study is like between 70 and 80%. If you're in the lab, of course, the performance is much better than if you just put it somewhere outside. So this is just a summary of some results that we had in the lab. But as I told you, they are all between 70 and 80. This is how it looked at the hearing aid dispenser. So, but the message is, surprisingly, we humans try to move our ears when we pay attention. And it's a nice fundamental result, but as I tried to mention, there's also technological potential in that method. Because if you compare to EEG, you know, in the EEG there's a lot of stuff, semantic analysis and so on. But this is really just focused on direction. And we have the effect of endogenous attention. So we just use the neural signals. They give us the vestigial neural drive, but we amplify it by using these vestigial muscles, which just give us bigger potential, which are stronger. So I just hope I convinced you that we all try to move our ears. And I thank you very much for your endogenous attention that you gave to my talk.